Sir Reginald of Spindlebrook considered himself an ordinary knight, if one could ever call a man ordinary, while he was astride a chestnut destrier named Parsnip and clad in plate armor engraved with scenes of inspirational vegetable gardening. Sure, his bald spot reflected sunlight so brightly that local skylarks used it as a navigational beacon. And yes, his heroic exploits to date consisted mainly of rescuing wayward goats from drainage ditches. But he had pure intentions, a sturdy jaw, and most importantly, an enchanted sword. It glimmered with arcane sigils, whispered in 3 dialects of Elvish, and, according to the ancient wizard who bestowed it, possessed the very power to reshape the world. The wizard had failed to specify precisely how it would reshape the world. Sir Reginald discovered the answer the moment he unsheathed a blade to butter his morning toast. One casual swipe converted the loaf, the platter, and an unfortunate fruit fly into bright yellow rubber ducks that emitted unified, indignant squeaks before bouncing off the kitchen table. Reginald stared, aghast as more miniature ducks waddled across the floor, setting off ripples of squeaking so persistent that Parsnip whinnied in protest from the courtyard. For a full hour, the knight attempted to reverse the transformation by shouting counter spells he half remembered from a pamphlet, flexing heroically in front of the objects, and even performing an interpretive dance that was rumored to ward off curses. Nothing worked. The rubber ducks retained their duckness, even quacking whenever he drew near, as if mocking his knighthood. Only after he accidentally grazed his helmet plume with the sword, turning it into a feathery duck sporting a faux metal visor, did he truly appreciate the scope of the predicament. He sought counsel in the Spindlebrook Great Hall, where the Baroness of Phalia, notorious for her wit and absolutely enormous hat collection, listened to his tale. She cocked an eyebrow. Everything the sword touches becomes a squeaky duck? Reginald nodded vigorously, brandishing the weapon with cautious pride. Behold! But do not get too close. Last evening I attempted to scratch my nose and turned an entire sideboard into poultry. Ha! How terribly inconvenient for furniture, Ophelia mused. Yet, how deliciously powerful. Imagine the possibilities. Armies disarmed by quacking bath toys. Tyrants forced to wage war with squeakable poultry. It is hardly dignified, Reginald lamented. No bard shall sing of a valiant knight who squeaked his way to glory. Nonsense, dear Sir Reginald. All you need is the proper quest. She produced a scroll bearing a crimson seal. The kingdom of Netherwald currently endures siege by the ogre Belchgrum. If you were to convert his weapons, or indeed the ogre himself, into rubber ducks, Netherwald would shower you with riches, poems, and possibly monogrammed towels. Reginald brightened. A real quest. A monstrous opponent. And, if all went well, no further damage to sideboards. He accepted the scroll, bowed so deeply that his visor collided with Ophelia's newest hat. It instantly squeaked and waddled away, then hurried toward the stables. Parsnip had just finished nuzzling a feed bucket, also a duck now, courtesy of Reginald's earlier oversight, but seemed otherwise willing to embark. The journey began under a lavender dawn. Sir Reginald took precautions. He wrapped the blade in layers of felt, secured the felt with twine, and slung the bundle across his back. Every so often it quivered, as though eager to discharge its avian magic, but the felt remained intact. By midday, they reached the Belly Button Hills, so named because of their round, grassy protrusions. There they encountered Millie the Squire in training, a spirited teen armed with a ladle and an unwavering commitment to taking copious notes. I heard about your duck sword, Millie blurted, emerging from behind a shrub. I wish to chronicle your saga for the Royal Archives. Also, I adore ducks. How did you find me so quickly? The knight asked. You glow on the horizon like a polished turnip, she replied matter-of-factly. May I join? Reginald admired her enthusiasm and realized he could use someone capable of writing legibly. He agreed, provided she obeyed one essential rule. Under no circumstances are you to touch the sword. Understood, Millie said, then promptly bumped the wrapped bundle while climbing onto Parsnip. The felt wriggled, a muffled squeak escaped, but mercifully no transformation occurred. Reginald exhaled and resumed their course. 2 days later, they arrived at Netherwald, or, more accurately, the smoldering remains of what used to be Netherwald's outer gate. Ogre Belchgrim towered nearby, 9 feet of muscle, warts, and regrettable dental hygiene. He wielded a tree trunk like a club, smashing battlements for leisure. Soldiers attempted to repel him with arrows, but the projectiles merely bounced off his crusty pauldron made of river rocks. Reginald dismounted, attempting to project confidence while devising a tactical plan that did not rely on becoming a pancake. Millie produced parchment and vibrated with excitement. Shall I describe you as resplendent or sparkly in my introduction? Resplendent should suffice, he muttered, unwrapping the sword. The felt fell away to reveal gleaming steel etched with ducks mid-squeak, a flourish he could have sworn wasn't there before. Belchagram noticed the movement and roared, scattering the soldiers like billiard balls. Great, Reginald whispered. He is looking directly at us. Millie held up the ladle as though to parry an ogre. I believe in you! Reginald took a steadying breath and charged. He zigzagged to avoid the club's downward smash, which cratered the earth and uprooted daisies. Then, summoning valor born of desperation, he touched the club's tip with his blade. Pop! The giant tree trunk collapsed into hundreds of bite-sized rubber ducks that tumbled in a yellow avalanche. Even Belchgrim looked perplexed. He swatted again, this time with his free hand. Reginald ducked in the traditional non-avian sense and grazed the ogre's knuckles. They transformed instantly, each bulbous finger reappearing as a squeaky duck wearing a tiny fingernail visor. The ogre shrieked, flailing a hand no longer fit for destroying cities. Encouraged, Reginald performed an acrobatic roll accidentally invented on the spot, then jabbed Belchgrim's knee. Quack! The kneecap metamorphosed, destabilizing the ogre's stance. He toppled backward in slow motion, arms windmilling, voice gargling confusion. Reginald poised to strike a final dignity-preserving blow upon the ogre's heart. Unfortunately, Millie chose that exact moment to cheer so exuberantly that she lost balance, collided with the knight, and propelled him sword first into the ground. The tip pierced soil, half the hillside erupted into squeaky ducks. A tidal wave of yellow toys surged downhill, engulfing Reginald, Millie, and Belchgrim alike. For several surreal minutes, the world became a rubber duck ball pit. Soldiers on the ramparts gaped. Somewhere near Reginald's boot, a duck with suspiciously refined diction squeaked an apologetic sonnet. When the avalanche subsided, Belchgrim lay buried up to his neck in ducks, sputtering feathers and indignation. His remaining limbs, still flesh, strained against the toy cocoon. Reginald waded over, draped now in ducks that stuck to his armor magnetically. I surrender, the ogre bellowed, voice muffled. No more clubbing, no more rampaging, remove tiny squeak beasts. You must vow never to menace Netherwald again, Reginald said, and perhaps invest in dental floss, Belchgrim agreed. The townsfolk erupted in jubilation, though their cheers mingled oddly with persistent quacking. They freed the ogre, fitted him with restorative gloves, and escorted him to anger management classes taught by a retired nun named Sister Malletfist. Meanwhile, Baroness Ophelia arrived by carriage, delighted to witness the aftermath Netherwald awash with ducks like a bathtub spilled across the landscape. My dear Sir Reginald, she exclaimed, stepping gingerly across toys, your triumph is the talk of 7 counties, but you realize, of course, that winning a single battle invites further requests. She unrolled a fresh scroll. A dragon terrorizes the kingdom of Clatterford. Imagine if its flames were replaced by cheery squeaks. Reginald, catching his reflection in a lake now teeming with flotation devices, sighed, I suppose destiny quacks onward. Over the following months, the knight's heroic resume expanded significantly. He pacified marauding goblins by converting their weapons, subdued a kraken by tapping its tentacles and transforming the creature into the world's first aquatic rubber duck exhibit, and even halted a war between 2 feuding duchies by turning their entire armory, catapults, lances, a suspiciously sharp spoon, into duckery. Bards began composing catchy tunes titled The Duck Knight Rises and Quack to the Future. Much to Reginald's chagrin, Prestige brought complications. Every banquet he attended erupted into pandemonium when his elbow brushed a candlestick or his sword's scabbard grazed a roast pheasant. Royal quarters filled with squeaks. Millie, still chronicling, needed earplugs. The kingdom's supply of non-avian cutlery dwindled at an alarming rate. Furthermore, Reginald noticed the sword's magic growing stronger each day, resonating like an overexcited kettle. Its humming woke him at night, beckoning for action. One blustery evening, Baroness Ophelia convened a strategy session in her hothouse, surrounded by carnivorous orchids. "We have a problem," she announced. "While your sword solves immediate threats, the resulting duck overpopulation is, well, biblical. Farmers complain their ponds are clogged, merchants trip in the streets, the national anthem can hardly be heard above the squeaking." Reginald rubbed his temples. "I fear I have become the menace I once swore to defeat." "Perhaps the sword requires a counter-curse," Ophelia suggested. "Return to the wizard who gifted it." "Excellent idea," Reginald said, though he privately dreaded seeing the old man again. The wizard, Archmage Wobbledoof, resided in a tower that resembled a stack of unwashed dishes. When Reginald arrived, ducks trailing behind him like a yellow parade, the wizard peered down through a porthole. "Sir Reginald," Wobbledoof croaked, "I see you made ample use of my blade." Reginald recounted the unintended consequences: duck deluges, squeak saturation, diplomatic quackery. "How do I stop it?" The wizard stroked his eyebrow, as his beard had apparently turned into a garden hose. "When I forged that sword, I sought a gentle alternative to bloodshed. Rubber ducks seemed whimsical and harmless. I never foresaw ecosystem imbalance. But fear not. The magic is attuned to your heart's desire. If you truly wish to relinquish its power, you must willingly part with it, gift it to one who values squeaky transformation above all else." Reginald blinked. Who on earth values that? At that moment, a small, determined voice piped up. "Me!" Millie emerged from behind a duck drift. "I have witnessed the wonders of this sword. Yes, chaos follows, but so does peace. No more injured soldiers, no orphaned children of war, only silly ducks. I would bear that responsibility." Reginald's first impulse was to refuse. Millie was still so young, and besides, the ladle seemed more her speed. Yet he saw unwavering conviction in her eyes. The wizard nodded sagely. "Magic chooses its bearer. You must decide." He unsheathed the sword, its glow pulsed softer, as though sensing his dilemma. Millie stepped forward with outstretched hands. "Very well," he said, placing the hilt in her grasp. As soon as her fingers closed around it, the sword's humming ceased. The etched ducks along its length fluttered, then settled. Millie gasped. It's singing nursery rhymes." Wobbledoof clapped. "Bond accepted. The sword's excess energy will adapt to her temperament. Less sporadic, more controlled. She'll refine its usage." A subtle whir lingered in Sir Reginald's ears, a farewell from the magic that had shaped his reputation. He half expected his own armor to revert to steel without duck motifs, but it remained comically avian, a reminder of the past months. As for Reginald, what was a knight without his sword? Ophelia answered that question by appointing him Royal Ambassador of Non-Confrontational Solutions. "Your experience mediating ogres and dragons grants you unique insight," she declared, pinning a badge shaped like a diplomatic carrot to his breastplate. His first assignment came swiftly. Two rival merchant guilds bickered over spice tariffs. Reginald arrived armed only with persuasive rhetoric and a chart illustrating duck population trends. Miraculously, no squeaking occurred, yet he brokered a compromise within hours. People listened, apparently trusting a man who had once single-handedly subdued a kraken with rubber poultry. He discovered a new talent, resolving disputes before violence began, thereby circumventing the need for any enchanted weapon at all. Millie, meanwhile, honed her blade skills. Under Wobbledoof's tutelage, she learned to direct the sword's power through gesture and intent. With a flick, she could transform only the tip of a spear into a duck, leaving the shaft intact. With a swirl, she could conjure a single enormous duck to serve as buoyant transport across moats. She retained the ladle, now holstered at her belt for soup emergencies, and compiled meticulous field notes. One bright spring morning, the freshly minted Squire of Squeaks, as some called her, visited Ambassador Reginald in the Great Hall. She demonstrated a new technique, tapping prisoners' shackles to produce duck-shaped keys that unlock themselves only after delivering a stern squeak about the virtues of rehabilitation. Reginald applauded, proud as any mentor might be. Yet there is one lingering matter, she said, sobering. The existing duck surplus still overwhelms countryside lakes. If uncontrolled, famine or flooding might ensue. Reginald stroked his chin. Could the sword revert ducks back into their original forms? No, the magic only moves forward, Millie replied. Then perhaps we should find a realm starved of whimsy, where rubber ducks would prove a blessing. His ambassadorial instincts tingled. He knew of such a place. The neighboring gray marshes, land so melancholy their bards refused to tune their lutes. Children there had never seen a toy that squeaked. Thus the Great Duck Relocation Initiative was born. Convoys of wagons transported ducks' lakes worth of them as crossed the border. Millie accompanied each caravan, ensuring transformations remained in check. Graymarsh citizens, initially bewildered, soon delighted in the influx. Streets filled with laughter, melancholic fog rolled back as giggles echoed. Productivity soared because workers, newly cheerful, invented efficient grain mills shaped like predictably ducks. In recognition of their contributions, the rulers of Graymarsh and Spindlebrook signed the Treaty of Quacking Accord. Ambassador Reginald penned its final clauses, guaranteeing squeaks for peace and establishing annual duck festivals rotating between the nations. Diplomats toasted with cider while standing knee-deep in rubber ducks, serving as festive confetti. Years passed. Legends of Sir Reginald and Squire Millie spread far beyond their homeland. Some tales exaggerated wildly, claiming Reginald had once turned the moon into an enormous glow-in-the-dark duck, which he gently reversed after realizing tides depend on lunar gravitation. He denied these rumors, but children adored the idea and plastered drawings on every tavern wall. As for the hero himself, he aged gracefully, his bald spot evolving into a reflective dome, so polished, ships used it as a lighthouse signal. He remained ambassador until retirement, then taught conflict resolution workshops for aspiring knights. His curriculum included empathy training, active listening, and a cautionary module titled Duck, Duck, Oops. Millie rose to master of the squeak blade, wielding her sword with artistry the original bearer never imagined. She did not abuse its power, rather, she applied it surgically to disarm warmongers, disable destructive machinery, and occasionally offer a distraught child a comforting quack. She carried on mentoring fresh squires, emphasizing responsibility and earplug hygiene. One twilight, Reginald and Millie reunited on Spindlebrook's castle ramparts. Below them, a celebration unfolded. Thousands of colorful lanterns drifted skyward alongside equally numerous rubber ducks fitted with tiny wings. The air resonated with squeaks harmonizing with lute melodies. "Remember when you first sought a dignified quest?" Millie teased. Reginald chuckled. "And ended up avalanched by ducks? I do indeed." He regarded the scene, families laughing, former enemies trading pastries, duck-shaped balloons bumping against banners. Odd, isn't it? Peace arrived in the least dignified guise imaginable. "I prefer to think dignity is overrated," Millie said, raising the sword. Its blade shimmered not with menace, but with mischievous possibility. "Sometimes the world needs a good squeak." They shared a companionable silence. Somewhere in the festival crowd, someone squeezed a duck squeak and another responded, "Squeep!" The sounds overlapped, forming a chorus that rippled through the night like jovial thunder. Sir Reginald smiled, content. He no longer feared the sword's power, for it was wielded wisely. He no longer dreaded rubber ducks, for they had become symbols of hope. And he no longer sought validation from epic ballads, for he had learned that true heroism was not measured in sword swung or monsters slain, but in laughter sparked, lives spared, and communities woven together by the unlikeliest threads, or, in this case, by tiny yellow ambassadors of merriment. Far beyond Spindlebrook's borders, rumors persisted of darker forces stirring, sorcerers who twisted magic into sorrowful shapes. If ever they threatened the realm, one could be certain that a knight, a squire, and an army of indomitable rubber ducks would rise to the occasion. Until then, the kingdom rested easy, lulled by the gentle, ridiculous lullaby of squeaks drifting on the wind.